Hi everyone, my name is Carrie. Thank you so much for joining me. This is my channel where I share all the crafty things that I get into and do and finish and start and all that kind of stuff. Thank you so much for joining me. Today's July 13th, 2020. And I say the date just in case you're watching this at a later time and you kind of have a reference of maybe what I'm talking about or at least a time frame. So thank you for joining me. I got my windows open. Today's going to be a summery day. It's like our first summery day for the summer. It's been cool and cloudy most of the time, and today I think it's going to be about 80, so it is starting to warm up. I thought I'd get a quick little video going, and then I can enjoy the rest of the day. So thank you so much for being here. Last time I talked with you, I was getting ready to go camping, which we did, and we had a great time. We camped over the 4th of July weekend, and we never usually leave on holidays just because we don't want to be on the highways. We don't want to be where there's a million people, and we decided this year to go camping because last year the firework displays that people were doing in the neighborhood were just so crazy and loud and ongoing and insane. We thought we don't want to be here when that happens again. So if you camp in a campground in the forest, it's illegal to shoot off fireworks in the forest. So we figured we'd be safe, which we were. But there's a ton of people. So we didn't do a ton of exploring or hiking because there's just a lot of people out and about. We're still in the COVID-19 pandemic, trying to keep distance from people, and we just don't like to be hiking. It's not fun to hike when there's a ton of people. So we just enjoyed relaxing. I took out my hammock that Robert and Michael gave me for my birthday, and it was lovely and very relaxing. So we were supposed to go camping again this next weekend, but they closed the campground because of COVID. We were going to camp up near Mount Rainier in Washington, and I don't know why, but they closed the campground till November, so they canceled our reservation. Well, getting that notification not even 2 weeks before we were supposed to go, it's a little late to make other plans because everything's full. Everybody's going camping because you can't travel really anywhere, so people are staying home and doing things closer to home, which involves a lot of camping, and so campgrounds are full. They normally are in the summer anyway, but it's even worse this year. So we have some days off because we were supposed, I have the whole summer off, but we have days off because we were planning on going camping, so I'm hoping we can go maybe take a day hike or something like that. Violet absolutely loved it. That's like her thing. She is so happy when we're out on the trail. She just loves it, and she did really good. We were able to have her off leash for quite a while, and she listened really good, and so she did really good. So unfortunately, we aren't going to camp again until like second half of August, hopefully, as long as they don't cancel anything, and then I go back to school, maybe. I'm not sure. I saw this morning on the news where Portland schools have a tentative plan of high school going to school 2 days a week. I work for high school here in my little town, and they generally follow what Portland's going to do. So I haven't heard any official word yet. Being that I am a lunch lady, I work in the kitchen, we have to provide food every day. So I may still have to go back to work every day. I'm not really sure what that's going to look like. I hope it's not like the end of the school year last year where I had to be at work at 6 o'clock in the morning, because getting up that early was really rough. That whole day that I worked, I was pretty worthless just because I didn't get enough sleep, and then the next day still kind of recovering from that. So I think if I had to do that every day, my sleep clock would adjust to it, but doing 1 day a week like that was really hard to get to any kind of an adjustment. So we'll see what happens, but they're going to be making decisions on some of this stuff pretty soon because school is not that far away, but then subject to change without notice because things are changing all the time. So I'm still doing my part, wearing my mask when I go out, limiting my social activities, and just doing my best to do what I can. So let's get on to the crafty stuff. I did put a quilt up on my design wall. This is a very old quilt, just because my design wall is empty and it looks kind of plain, and that's a real pretty something to look at. That is a quilt I made back in 2005. I was very, very new to quilting. And back then there was a TV show called Simply Quilts, and it was hosted by Alex Anderson. And I would video record it on my VCR and watch it every time it was on. And she would have some guest quilt designer instructor on. And I learned so much from watching that show. That's how I learned how to quilt. The show's not on anymore. Alex Anderson is still, I think, doing a show. She converted to doing it online. And I followed that for a while, but then I just don't quilt as much anymore, so I'm kind of out of the loop on that. But this quilt looks like a simple little squares and stuff, but the colored squares, so there's green squares and then there's like colored full squares. The colorful squares are actually folded flowers. So, of course, as you learn to quilt, you must do the most difficult thing you could possibly do. But I did it and I loved making it. The quilting on it's crap because I quilted it on my domestic machine. It was before I had any kind of a long arm. I was very new, but I did put it in a little guild show in Vancouver back in the day, and I did get Viewer's Choice Award for that. So people voted for that as their favorite quilt of the show. I didn't get a judge's award, but people's choices were, it's good because that means the people like it. I like it too, and I decided, and I'll put I'll put a picture or two. I don't know what I've got, but of what the flowers look like, and then I put a bead in the middle of each flower, so it's kind of cool. It's kind of cool. So I used to have it hanging years ago, and then kind of, I get tired of looking at the same kind of stuff and took it down. But I thought, you know what, my design wall needs a little color, so it came out of hiding. Another quilt that I finished, and I did post this on Instagram, is my leaf table runner. And I talked about, I showed this on Instagram, and I talked about the quilt. It's a table runner, and I showed it a while back when I was showing different quilts I made. This is a quilt that I made several years ago. It was a class that I took to learn how to paper piece. Paper piecing is when you sew the fabric actually to a piece of paper, following the lines on the paper. You rip the paper off and you've got your design. I had a really hard time back then grasping how to do paper piecing because it's like backwards and upside down when you're doing it, and I would always get it messed up. So I took a class and learned how to do it. And so I made this table runner. This was the pattern we worked on for the class. This blue fabric and the fabric for the leaves is fabric that I dyed. And then this purple is a batik. So let's see if you can see the quilting. I did some feathers in the leaves and then just a border design. I don't know what. Just some swirl filler on the blue. I am so happy to have this finished. It just makes me so happy because it's one of those things I do really well, and I did really well as a business of quilting when I had a deadline, because it was like, I have to do this. I have this deadline. But when I can't speak for anybody else, but when I don't have that deadline, sometimes it can be like, I don't feel like doing it. I'll do it later. I've got time. It's not for anything. And then I tend to procrastinate, and I'm trying really hard right now to take advantage of the time that I have, being at summer break and whatever. It's good therapy for me mentally to do quilting. I had started machine quilting the same year my oldest son died, and that was great therapy for me to just focus on my quilting, and it just kind of takes my mind off of the other stuff. So in this whole pandemic stuff, it's good for me to get on my machine. So really pleased with how this turned out. And the back is this fabric. I've used this fabric for a couple of other recent finishes. It's a bolt that I bought. I bought the whole bolt because I knew that these colors would go with pretty much anything that I'm making. And it's been really nice to have that because it's on the back, who's going to care? And it's a pretty fabric anyway. So, yeah, so I use that. So I also loaded, and I showed this on Instagram, and I've shown it here before, but it's called Big Dream, and it's a digitally printed panel that's about 45 inches square, 43 inches square, something like that. And I had bought that a few years ago with the intent of just quilting it and using it like as a whole cloth. And a whole cloth means you didn't piece anything together. You're just quilting a whole piece of fabric. So this fabric is printed with this giant dahlia flower. And I got it with the idea that, oh, I'm going to quilt it and do some really cool quilting. And then I put it away. And then it got really popular, and I started seeing more and more of it pop up, and these people were doing this amazing quilting on their quilts that I just loved. Thought these are just masterpieces. And then I started to doubt myself, like, I want mine to just be like this great masterpiece, and I don't know that I can do it. So I just didn't ever pull it out. And I thought, in my attempt to try and get some of these tops done that I have to be quilted, get them actually quilted, I loaded it on my machine. And I thought, okay, if I get it loaded, then I have a better chance of actually quilting it. So by loading it means pinning it to the leader bars and stuff and getting it ready for quilting. So I did that. Then I actually did baste it. Generally, you don't baste your quilts when you do them on a long arm, because as you roll them, it's shifting the fabrics. But I knew I wanted to start in the middle, and I'd be rolling back and forth, quilting the different petals. And so I ran basting stitches like every 3 inches or so. So I'm like, okay, I'm committed. This is ready to go. And then as I get to an area that I'm going to quilt, I just pull those stitches out. So everything just stays where it should be. Then you alleviate having fullness and puckering and pleats and stuff like that where you don't want them. So got that all ready to go, and then I'm like, I just have to dive in. Picked out all the colors that I wanted to use, subject to change as I go along, because as everything is, I have a plan and then things change. And I just was like, okay, I don't know. I really had all this self-doubt because I don't quilt that much anymore. And, I'm out of practice, and it's all about being practiced with anything, any skill that you have. You have to keep practicing to keep up on your skill. And I just don't quilt that much anymore. But I thought, you know what? It's going to be fine. It'll be what it is. And so I looked at the hashtag for Big Dream Quilt. And so I can see all these different ideas, which are jumping off points for me. It's like, okay, I like the way this design looks. Let me do something similar to that. And that really helped. So I got started on it, and then I just did the center of it, and I'm like, I don't know if this is going to be good or not. And I just doubt. And then I thought, you know what? It's a freaking piece of fabric. It's not the Michelangelo whatever, the Sistine Chapel. It's a piece of fabric. It's going to be quilted. It's going to hang up. It's going to look fine. It doesn't have to be a masterpiece. It just has to be fun. It has to be just something that just kind of happens. And so I had to let go of that idea that it was going to be this like perfect thing. And then I got going on it, and then I started having fun with it. And so I get kind of stuck, like, what can I do? Look at the hashtag, like, oh, that's a good idea. And it just would give me inspiration. And so I am working my way through it. I haven't had a ton of time to spend on it, just maybe half hour at a time or something. So it's getting there. I started with the third color that I'm using. Mine starts with like a aqua color and slowly goes out to purple to like a wine burgundy sort of color. So I'm working from the middle out, and it's getting there. So I'm excited now to have it done. And Jim came up like, oh, what are you working on? He goes, oh my gosh, that looks great. So we definitely got to hang that up somewhere. I don't know where it's going to hang because it's purple, and the only place that's appropriate really is in here. So we'll see where it goes. It'll go somewhere. But I'm having fun with it. So hopefully by the time I record next time, it will be done and I can show that to you. But I have shown some pictures on Instagram of what that looks like. So that's my quilting story for this time. I have also been doing some spinning stuff and some knitting. So I have that kind of stuff to share with you as well. So I'm going to show some spinning stuff. Last time we talked, I think I was in the middle of, I had this skein or this fiber spun on bobbins and I hadn't plied it yet. And so now it's plied. This is a Rambouillet by Nest Fiber Studio called In Limbo. And it is really pretty. I like the way it looks. I don't know what it would be. It's not scratchy, but it doesn't have that silky softness that like superwash merino does, but it's not bad. I mean, I don't think it would be scratchy to feel on. So I don't know. I think I got about 540 yards of this fingering weight, and so it could be something. Not sure, but it's okay. It doesn't have to have a reason for it. The next spin I did is this one, which I love. I actually spun this with the idea of giving it as a gift, and then I'm not sure that I can part with it, which is really bad. This is from Wound Up Fiber Arts called Same Here. It's a 90-10 superwash merino nylon. This is super soft, and the colors are just really delicious, kind of denim-y almost. I think this is a little more like a sport weight. It's a little bit heavier of a fingering. I figure I got about 360 yards on this. Did better on my plying. My plying's getting better. I am realizing I can put more twist in it than I was, and that even when that's done and I hang it to see if it's balanced. So when you hang the loop, like you figure your hank of yarn is in a loop, if you hold that up and hang it, it should just hang straight. That means it's balanced. It means it's not overspun or underspun. And when I put it into a hank like that and hang it, it has a little bit of a twist. So it seems like it may have too much twist in it, but then by the time I wash it, it balances it all out and it's good. So I feel like this twist in this is really good. And I love the color. So I did have it picked out, actually when I bought it even, as a gift. I don't know if I can part with it. I may have to do something else for gifts because I don't think I can part with it. I did talk about signing up for a Fiber of the Month with Into the World. And so I got my first fiber, and it's a Romney, which I have never spun before. And this colorway is called Empty Child. And it's gorgeous. I love the colors. I put it in a braid. Oops, I just got myself stuck on my notebook. Okay, there we go. Put it into a braid because it was just loose in the thing. But you can see how pretty those colors are. Gorgeous. But it's very rustic. Like, I don't think I could wear this on my body. I don't know what I could use it for, because I think even socks might feel a little rough. It's really pretty though, and that's the thing with the Into the World subscription thing, is that you don't know what color and you don't know what type of fiber you're going to get. So I knew that was a risk, and I was just being hopeful that it was going to be something I loved. I do love this color. I think it's gorgeous. I think it's going to spin up really pretty. I don't love the fiber content because it is scratchy. So then I thought, I don't have to make yarn and knit with it. I could maybe do a needle felting. You've got some good colors. I could do sort of a landscapey. I've got some green and yellow. Could be the sky with some blue and purple flowers and stuff. I could maybe do something. So I might try something like that. And I have needle felting stuff because I tried that quite a long time ago. I don't know where it is. I may have gotten rid of it. I kind of doubt it because I don't get rid of stuff like that. But it's been so long since I've done any kind of needle felting. I'm not sure where it is. So it's not that expensive for me to get more, but I thought maybe trying needle felting with it because this would definitely felt. So we'll see. We'll see. I thought, you know what, I'll wait and see what my next fiber is that I get, because maybe there's some fiber like that that I could, you know, do that kind of a project with, you know, different colors that I may get or something. I don't know. We'll see. So I'm not disappointed. I mean, I'm a little disappointed because I don't feel like it's a fiber that I can really use for knitting or crocheting or like a garment. But we'll see what happens. Did get together the other day with the knitting group. That's really such a nice group of friends. So Leslie, Michelle, Gail, Lori, and me. And we all got together just to knit and hang out and enjoy each other's company. We were able to sit in my family room pretty spread out, so we weren't so super close because it was a real cool day. It was a little too cool to sit outside. And then Leslie brought me a birthday present, which was really nice. So my birthday was like a month ago, but I haven't seen her. I haven't seen her in like a long time. But she gave me fiber. Look at this. Isn't that fun? This is a Targhee called Hotsy Totsy by Nanette Wake. You've heard me talk about her before. Nanette had a lot of activity for people buying me stuff for my birthday. This is going to be so fun. It's going to be bright and happy and cheerful. And Targhee I have spun up Targhee, and it is really fun to spin because I can get a nice, even, thin spin with it. So, yeah, I'm going to look it up and see if it's something that you can make socks with, because there's no nylon. It's just Targhee. I don't know, but very pretty. Then something else I haven't tried, she gave me a silk hanky. So this is 100% silk, and the way it comes is on what they call a hanky, which is, see if I can unfold it. So it's like layers folded up, and there is yards and yards and yards and yards and yards of silk on here. It's amazing how much yarn you can get off of a hanky. Like I said, I've never spun it, but I have seen them before. When I had done back a few years ago, did a like a dye day tour kind of thing. It was just a tour that I did actually with my quilt guild that I was part of. We went up to Blue Moon Fiber Arts, which is in my town, just up in the woods. And she was talking, Tina, who's the owner, was telling us about the hankies and how much fiber is actually on here. So this will be really fun to learn to spin. I don't know. Gorgeous colors too, by the way. Super pretty. So speaking of these colors, you want to see what's currently on my wheel? This is one of my bobbins. Same kind of color scheme. I love it. It kind of reminds me of the ocean. This is by Wound Up Fiber Arts. This is an unnamed one. It was one of the first ones I bought from her. And I'm almost done with the second bobbin. I just have a little bit more to spin, and then the second bobbin will be done so I can ply it. But beautiful, beautiful colors. So that's my current spin. I haven't been getting as much spinning in because I started having some shoulder problems because I was sitting and spinning so much. And it's not that there's a lot of movement, but just holding my shoulder tense to move my arm, that whole tenseness was messing up my shoulder. So I had to kind of like take more breaks and try and spin for shorter periods of time, because I could sit there for hours and just spin, and it's not good to just be sitting. It's too bad that most of my crafting is so sedentary because it's not healthy to just sit so much, and I can get so involved in what I'm doing. It could be, hours before, and you're like, oh crap, 3 hours just went by and I haven't even moved out of my chair because I'm so involved in whatever it is I'm doing. So I have to get up more and like do some different things. I can't just sit and spin as much as I was until the aggravation kind of dies down a little bit. So I think that's it for fiber stuff. I did also try something new. I was looking on something, Pinterest maybe, and I came across this pattern like a PDF, you know, gal's blog kind of a thing. And I'll try and link it as with everything else down below. But it was for knitting socks on my sock machine. So my sock, or not my sock machine, on my knitting machine. I don't have a sock machine. My knitting machine is a flatbed knitting machine, which means it knits flat pieces. It knits, you know, flat. Doesn't knit in a circle. So I thought, gosh, I wish there was a way that I could knit socks that way, because I love having hand knit socks. I just don't take the time to make them anymore, because I'm more interested in knitting like sweaters or garments or bigger things, or just spinning, whatever. Socks are just like way down on the list, but I like having knitted socks. So I thought, okay, I'm going to try it and just see if I can do it. So I did some gauge swatches to follow the pattern, because you do short rows for the heels and toes and the knitting, and I got gauge that was pretty close to my hand knit socks. So I pulled a hand knit sock out, kind of checked my gauge, and pretty closely matched it. So I tried it. It didn't turn out, but it's close. So what you do, so here it is, and this is just like random yarn that was left over from stuff I dyed. You start with some waste yarn so that you have like a provisional cast on, basically, and I can pick up the stitches with my hand knit needles and knit ribbing. So started that, you knit down, you do a short row heel. So there's extra loops and stuff because things were not working right, but you get the gist. Do a short row heel, then you knit to the toe, do the toe. So you decrease to the tip, then increase back up and knit the top of the foot, and then you seam it. And I thought, okay, well, let me just see what that's like. I don't know what it's going to be like to have a seam on the side of my foot, but here, this side's a little bit better. It wasn't too horrible. You can see it. It's not going to be something I'd want to do with self-striping, because you're knitting these two, the front and the back, separately, and your stripes aren't going to match. But it's not horrible. The short row heel was doing good. I got caught up on something, so it left a goober, but you know, the short row heel looks pretty good. It all went pretty fast, and I could make a sock in, including seaming it up, probably a couple of hours. But to knit it, like maybe 45 minutes to knit the piece, and then to seam it. I think it would have gone faster to seam it had I blocked it, because you know how the knitting wants to curl. Well, I've got the ends that are curling, and I'm trying to find what those end stitches are so that I can stitch them together by hand. And I think it would have been easier if I had let it block out and kind of relax and flatten out and then seam it up. So I might try that next time. And I tried to do some math based on my handmade socks, how many stitches I had in an inch, and I knew I wanted to knit so many inches, but I made the foots like way too long by like a couple of inches. It needs to be like that long. So now I know to knock off that many stitches when I knit it, if I did it again. Yeah, it's not bad. I haven't put shoes on. I put it on. It's a little loose, so I did it with 64 stitches. And being that I'm not exactly knitting the same way as hand knitting, I would normally do 64 stitches. I think I'm going to go down to 60 and just knock off those 4 stitches to just see if that makes them just a little snugger, because they will, like, they fit nice, but I know once I wear them, they would stretch out and be a little too baggy. So I need a little bit of negative ease with it. So I'll knock off a couple of stitches on the flat part and knock off about 20 rows or so for the length. And I think it would work. Like I said, because I can't really wear them because they're too long, I couldn't really fit them in a shoe. But I don't think that this ridge is all that bad. I think like I said, if I blocked it, I think I could have gotten that seam to look a little bit nicer, because I had some areas where you can hardly see the seam at all. It's really nice and flat, and I don't know, I picked up the right stitches in that little spot. So, it takes some more experimenting, but I think if I can work this out to get it to work, it would be a really nice way to make up some socks. But like I said, it can't be striping or any kind of a pattern. This was real good because, you know, there was no pooling or anything, which was really nice. So things might pool even more because you're not knitting all the way around. You're only knitting half back and forth. I might get some different kind of pooling with some hand-dyed yarn, just because you're knitting on fewer stitches. You're knitting on half of the stitches. So we'll see. It's something I'm working on. It's an experiment, like I said. Then I have also been hand knitting some stuff. I had talked last time, I got fiber floating around, sorry. I had talked last time about a sweater that I'm knitting, and it is the Alaska sweater, and it's by Camille Descateau. Like I said, I don't know how to pronounce the name, but I will link this in the description box below. So I am knitting this with yarn from Barnyard Knits. So it's this beautiful pinky purple. It's a little more pink than what I'm seeing on the screen, but it's a pinky purple variegated. I talked about doing a heart. Okay, can you see the heart? It actually turned out fine. I think when it blocks, it'll look nice because it kind of pulls in on the sides, but I think it'll be fine once it blocks. And I had originally thought I was going to use this blue color for the trees that are on the bottom, but I think I found something better. I got an email from Knit Picks that their Swish DK was on sale, so I got this color. This is going to look so much better with this as the trees. So they had it on sale. I've never worked with it before. So this is the color Bordeaux. It's 123 yards to 50 grams. So the drawback of these is with any Knit Picks is they usually have them in most stuff in 50-gram balls. So you have more ends to weave in, but it's a beautiful color. It's exactly what I thought it was going to look like. It's very soft. It's 100% superwash merino, which this is as well. So fiber content wise, it's going to go really well. And I think that's going to look really pretty. And I don't have a sweater in these combinations. So that's exciting. I had put that aside though, because of course I started something new. I had this yarn that I got from Hobby Yarns, and I've talked about it before. It's a cotton bamboo linen blend in this like grayed out purple color. It's from Hobby, and what is the name of it? I don't know. I thought I had a tag. I don't know. I'll put it down. I'll put it on there somewhere. Anyway, I had bought that online to do a shawl for a knit along with the Fiber Hustle podcast guys, and I wanted to participate with their knit along, and so I thought, oh, a cotton linen bun shawl, I might wear that, and it never came. And anything I had ordered from them before, I usually got within a week or so, and it didn't come, and I ended up making the shawl out of something else, and then it came. I'm like, okay, now I have all these balls of yarn that was supposed to be the shawl. What am I going to do with it? And it was just bugging me that I had this yarn that I had like a quantity of it. I didn't just have a single skein. And like, what am I going to do with it? And so I kept looking and I thought, would be really cool to crochet like just some little throw over lacy something. So I found this pattern. This is a free pattern from, I think it's Lion's brand. Yarn Inspirations. Yarn Inspirations is a red heart anyway, but not in that rainbow color, but I thought that'd just be cute to just sort of throw over the top. Let me try and crochet that. I'm not really a crocheter. I can do some really basic stuff, and I started it. You had to chain a ton, 176 stitches, 150 stitches, something like that. So I did that, and then you're supposed to do it in the round. Well, a chain is that's a little tricky, because like when you cast on a circular needle, everything's on the needle. With a chain, you're only hanging it on by the one stitch on the end. So to try and get that straight was really hard. So I thought, okay, I'll make my chain and I'll do the first couple rows back and forth, so it gives me some meat to connect it. Got through all that stuff. Took me a few tries to get that right. Got it going. Got it in a circle. I thought I was doing it right, and I'd get to the end and I'm like, I don't have the right amount of stitches. Did I forget to do something? And then try and go back and then put it in the round, and I really worked hard on making sure nothing was twisted. And I laid it all out, and as I was going around, I'm like, somehow I got this in a twist. And I was like, by that time I had already tried it like 10 different times, and I thought, this sucks. I'm not doing this anymore. So I was on the search again. So this is where some of my time goes. I get on Ravelry to find a pattern, and it's like pretty soon you're on the rabbit hole down that route. But I found this tee because I had a limited amount of yarn, so I had to try and find something. This is the Radiance Tank. It is a knit pattern with a little bit of lace at the bottom and a little bit on the back. And it is by Rebecca McKenzie. And it requires pretty much the exact amount of yarn that I have. I think it calls for like 945 yards, and I have like 960. So I'm super close. And I thought I can always order more yarn, but the skeins are only like $3 or $4, and I thought I'm going to pay more in shipping to just get that one more skein that I need. And so then it started down that whole thing, like, well, while I'm paying shipping, I might as well buy more yarn, right, to make the package worthwhile. And I thought, no, I don't really need to do that. I'm going to just try and make this work, and I think I'm going to have enough the way it's going. And I've gotten quite far. So it's bottom up. It's a garter bottom edging, and then you've got this lace at the bottom, and then now I'm just stocking it. It's got a really nice drape, and I think that's because you've got the bamboo and the linen and stuff like that, and the yarn's been really nice to work with. So I have to just knit to a whatever point, separate for the sleeves like you do a sweater, and then it's a tank, so I'll you put like the back stitches on hold or whatever, knit the front, put those on hold, knit the back, and then do a 3-needle bind off at the top of the tank. So, you know, we're getting there. We're getting there. I think it's going to be really nice. So I worked on this pretty much all through camping, and this has been my go-to. It's just knitting in the round, which I can do and talk, and I can do and watch TV. And so when I got together with everybody, this is what I worked on. Excuse me. And then like my Zoom knit night on Thursday nights, working on that. So that's really cool. But the best part is the bag I'm keeping it in. Isn't that amazing? Look at that pink sparkle in there. This is a bag made by Nanette Wakes. That woman has got talent coming out of her eyeballs, I swear. And she hand weaves this, makes a bag out, hand weaves the fabric, makes the bag out of it. This beautiful wool flowers that she appliqued on it. And this just makes me so happy. The inside is like rainbowy. I had gotten some gift cards for my birthday from a couple different people, different friends, and so I combined them and bought myself this bag because I would never spend the money on myself to do this any other time. So I thought that was a perfect thing to get for my birthday, to use those gift cards. I love it. I absolutely love it. Look at that shine. That's pretty cool. So, yeah, so those are my 2 knitting projects that I'm working on. I want to get the tank done because that's something I could probably wear right now that we're finally going to be in summer. Should have it done, but you know, I get busy quilting or doing some other stinking stuff. I did start I did briefly start the lightwood cowl, and I talked about that last time, and I wound up my colors and I got it started. I've got like, you know, 1/4 of an inch done. It's not enough to really show you, but for some reason I wasn't feeling it. And so I put it aside because I thought, I'm not sure if this is the right yarn. You know, so I put it aside. I think I'm going to get back to it. I think at the time I just needed like a stockinette, like the tank, that I could just knit like while we drove to camping, you know, for 3 hours. And I could even do that on the windy roads because if I'm just knitting, I don't really have to look down at my knitting. I can just look forward because I'll get car sick. So it was a good project for that. Oh, and when I ordered from Knit Picks, I finally got some Dishy. I hear people talk about the Dishy yarn and how they like this yarn for making the washcloths and dishcloths and stuff. And they like this better than like peaches and cream or sugar and cream or something. That's what I want to try it. But I don't want to just order this. Same thing. Like I just order this. It's not that much to pay for the shipping. Might as well order more. You know, that whole deal. So I got a couple skeins. There's a lot on here. They're really thick. How much is on here? 190 yards for 100 grams. So several dishcloths or face cloths or whatever out of this stuff. I do think it feels really nice. So I think it's going to make really nice washcloths. So that's something I'll do. That's a good project too for when you just want like straight knitting to make a washcloth. Well, that's it for me for today. I will hopefully have my big panel quilt, Dahlia, big whatever quilt done next time. And yeah, so I hope you guys are enjoying your summer, still staying safe and staying healthy. And I will talk to you again next time.